Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going a little dark. Since it's only a few weeks away from Halloween, this is the perfect makeup for anybody. If you don't have a costume, this is it. It's a very simple look to do. There's very minimal use of product, and most of you probably already have it in your kit. So, let's get started.
Alrighty guys, so for this look, we're not going for that stark white painted face. Instead, I'm using a concealer. This is actually Pro Longwear from MAC in the color NC25. And I'm just applying that all over, including the lips, to get a nice bone-like effect. Once you have an even layer all over, take a translucent powder. I'm using the MAC translucent and set all over the skin. This is going to ensure that nothing moves as you're applying the rest of your makeup throughout the look. So to trace the outline of the skull face, I'm using Blacktrack gel liner from MAC with a flat angled brush. First, I get to see the entire look just outlined before I start filling it in. This way, if you make any mistakes, you can correct them as well as create exactly the shape that you want. Here, I'm just tracing out the outlines of the hollowed eyes. Once you have the desired shape for the eyes, move on to the nose. Now, you don't want the breaking point of the nose to be completely even V. I like to raise one end a little higher than the other to give it sort of like that broken hollowed bone sort of natural effect. Here I'm just tracing out the lips. Basically, to create the teeth, I'm just going to first outline some lines evenly matching both sides. When you start off with the center line, it makes it much easier to be able to have even number of teeth. With every step, whenever I draw one side of the face, I make sure to do the other side at the same time. So here, we're sort of creating that broken jaw structure. This part is mimicking the cheekbones as well as the hollows of the cheeks. So just take it one step at a time. There's many different shapes and forms that you can do. I like to use a reference for that. So just go online and find your favorite skull photo and use that as a reference. And then trace the outline on each side. Follow that same process for the bottom teeth as well. Create a row of teeth and then do the same little shading, the V corners. Now, when you're going out into the hollows of the cheekbones, you want kind of to trail off the teeth. You don't want it to be so prominent because it's going to start hiding into the shadows. So don't even worry about it being super detailed. Just kind of outline everything for now and we'll take care of it later. And go ahead and mirror that same thing on the other side. I always check periodically to make sure that they're both even, but if it's not, it's a skull. It's not supposed to be perfect. Now using Blacktrack again, I'm just going to go back into the nose and fill it in. I try to fill the upper part of the face first so that my hand is not resting against it as I'm working. So nose is typically out of the way, so I just go ahead and do that first. And then use a very thin brush to sort of trail off those upper edges of the broken nose. You can squiggle it just a little bit to create that broken effect. That really gives it a creative, sort of realistic broken nose look. Do the same thing for the eyes. Just start off under the brows and trace out every little corner perfectly and fill in every bit of the eye. Now you could also use a black pencil on the waterline if you'd like, just to black out everything. Here I'm just going as close as I can to the lash line. Now, this is going to be a long process, so as you're doing it, make sure you're listening to some good music and don't forget to take breaks and jam out. Add some cracks to the top of each hollowed eye. Now we're filling in the sides of the cheekbones and jawline. I start by tracing that line first so that I don't overextend it, and then I just go in and fill the whole thing in. You can change your brush up if you'd like and use a slightly bigger, flatter brush like I'm using here, and just go ahead and fill in the whole thing, but don't go too close to the teeth yet. So now those little tiny V's that we created earlier, I'm just going to go in and fill them in with some gel liner to darken it. Essentially, it's the teeth extending up and the shadows behind it showing. That's the idea behind it. You can go in more detail and make it much more realistic, but for this look, I'm just kind of creating like little V's, like the teeth are extending out. I mean, our skull must be pretty healthy to have all the set of teeth right there. Okay, so this part is kind of fun. Now we're just blacking out the entire ear. It's sort of a process. I recommend it, however, it is optional. This is just to hide the ear so that it's not popping up against your sort of shadows on the sides of the face. It really adds to the effect. However, let me warn you, it took me about 2 weeks to really fully get all of that black out of my ear. And so that's why I say it's optional. Now using a shadow, here I'm using the Huda palette in Black Truffle. We're just going to go on the sort of like the inner corners of the hollowed eyes and extending out that shadow. This will give it more of a three-dimensional look. Use a dry brush, sort of a blending brush, and just blend out those edges. I created sort of an angry look. Now using that same flat brush and the same shadow, lightly trace out indentations on the corners of each hollowed eye. This creates a raised bone effect, so it gives it more of a three-dimensional look. I do this in most parts of the face. However, you can be strategic about it. It doesn't have to be everywhere. It just adds more texture, more 3D look to the bone, and just really makes it come alive. Get it? The whole idea behind creating the shadows underneath sort of the brow area, I should say, is to create like this angry effect as if the bones are coming together. When you create shadows, it raises the highlighted parts, so it gives it a very realistic sort of angry skull face. I love this extra effect to it. Do the same thing on the other side and continue blending. You can use multiple brushes to blend and just get the desired effect. The more you do this, the more realistic your skull face looks. Basically, details are key. To add some more details to the teeth, here we're just extending out those shadows in between each tooth gap and extending it down into the roots. It really makes them pop, so definitely go in detail and add as much as you'd like. Now, to really add some extra dimension to the face, take a white pencil. I'm using Fascinating from MAC, and just go into each raised corner of the bones and add some highlight to it. Essentially, as an edge is raised, the light hits it much more, and so it creates a highlighted effect. That's what we're mimicking here. I like using a pencil because it's really easy to apply, it's smooth, and I don't have to put a lot of pressure to it. However, if you don't have a pencil, you can always take a white shadow with a small flat brush and use that. Now, don't forget your pearly whites. Go ahead and do the same thing all over the teeth. You can add a yellow tooth here and there if you want an extra effect. We're keeping ours fully white. This is why I don't use white face paint against the face, because I want that sort of the stark white to be reserved only for the highlights and the teeth to give it more of a three-dimensional look. As you can see, it's a very effective process. Alright guys, so the last step is to take some black shadow and dark out the hairline as well as the neck. You can also add more detail to the neck, however, we're just going to keep it nice and black to bring out the face. And then go ahead and set it with some hydrating or setting spray. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this look. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with all your friends. Thanks for watching.